Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So, chapter 913 of One Piece is out. So if you haven't checked out that chapter yet, I suggest that you do so because I will be spoiling you. But now that you have, let's begin. Honestly guys, I felt a little bit teased from this chapter. We got all the hype and the lead up to potentially a clash or some sort of conflict between the supernova Basil Hawkins and Luffy and Zoro. And by the end of the chapter, really all that seemed to have done is serve the purpose of introducing the Straw Hats to this new girl, O-Tsuru, and give us a little bit more about Basil Hawkins' powers. I guess this is really the big takeaway of this entire meetup, like what purpose I see it serving. Basil Hawkins now knows that these Straw Hats are present in Wano. That's big. Amanomoon was looking for secrecy, and Luffy and Zoro failed. Kaido now has an opportunity to discover the Straw Hats if Basil Hawkins tells him, and that's when the real calamity should begin. But anyway guys, I don't really want to approach this review linearly. I want to talk about all of the various things I noticed, and I want to start off with what might be potentially a tinfoil hat theory that actually makes some sense. Although I don't know if Oda is going to go in this direction or not, but there's a lot of very, very curious signs. And so who I want to talk about is I want to talk about O-Tsuru. And so here's how my thoughts sort of developed. So first off, this character is named O-Tsuru, but the O is not actually part of her name. I do not believe. That's just a prefix, essentially attached to female names in Wano. And it has to do with how names worked in the past in Japan. So her real name is actually Tsuru. And that's really, really strange to me because there's already a major character in the story of One Piece that Oda has spent a lot of time showing us, also named Tsuru. And I thought to myself, why would Oda name a character based on a already fairly important character, a big enough character? Shouldn't he have chosen a different name? There must be some significance to this name in some way. So what do I do in situations like this? I Google the name Tsuru and see if there's any sort of people or stories or anything that's attached to the name itself which might be relevant. We know that with Wano, already based on what we've already given, Oda is splashing in a lot of Japan's own mythology and folklore. And so I happened upon a story called Tsuru no Ongeshi. Sorry if I mispronounced that. And reading this was really, really enlightening because it is like 100% Oda has taken inspiration from the story in the creation of the character O-Tsuru. I don't really want to go through the story in its entirety. You're welcome to look it up on your own. But the premise of the story is basically this. A old man finds a crane caught in a hunter's trap and saves it. The crane, however, the secret of the story is the crane can transform into a beautiful girl, and having been saved by the old man, offers to repay that debt. But through the majority of the story, the people do not realize that it is a crane because the crane takes the form of a young woman. And just as a side note for those who do not know, the name Tsuru itself in Japanese means crane. And so that's kind of ridiculous, right? The idea that O-Tsuru could be something other than a human. Maybe not. When we first get introduced to her, she just is drawn weird. And so there's an art style that accompanies that. She's drawn in a classical kind of way, and maybe that's what Oda was going for. There's also weird little sparkles around her when she is drawn, and there's lots of really strange little things. But my idea essentially is, guys, is that O-Tsuru is not who she appears to be. She's not a human. She is, in fact, a creature. So far, having visited Wano as much as we have, there have been other strange and unique, almost mythical creatures that exist. Obviously, they cannot transform into a human, but I asked myself, why not? I thought it was really strange at the end of the last chapter how this girl just magically disappeared. Like, she was there, and then she was gone. We find out that she was, during this entire time, hiding in the tail of the dog beast. And I also asked myself, like, that seems really out of character for such a well-to-do, well-dressed, beautiful young lady. It's a very strange way to act. Even aside from this, it's still not fully explained why the creature decided to come towards Luffy and Zoro and rescue them in the first place. My idea is that there's a lot more to O-Tsuru than meets the eye, and she actually told the creature or led the creature in that direction. And the creature did seem to be very disturbed. Even the way that she spoke to the Straw Hats was odd. They asked her a couple questions, which she did not bother responding to. Questions such as, "Oh, so you know Otama?" And her response to that was nothing related to the question at all. So it leaves me thinking, how does she know Otama? It gives me the impression that this is a person who holds a lot of secrets. I also found it incredibly odd how Basil Hawkins approached the chase. Remember, he was drawing cards and it was determining what it is that he and his subordinates were doing, but at some point in time he drew a card which suggested that they would get support, or they would get allies. And from that point it seems as though he discontinued the chase. And so who was there to give the Straw Hats support? Who would be strong enough? Who would be impactful enough? The only person that I see that would be unexpected would be O-Tsuru herself. Is she secretly powerful in some way? Anyway, guys, my eyes are on her with this folklore story that I mentioned, as well as just the oddities from the chapter itself. She has piqued my interest. Another thing to point out about her as well is that she wears a brooch or a clasp on her hair in the shape of a bird. It could be a crane, just like her name implies. But it is also the very same symbol that is on the Kozuki clan emblem. Now, I don't know how significant this is to the Kozuki because we haven't seen enough Wano clan emblems, if it's perhaps a symbol that is very common in Wano. That being said, it might suggest at this point in time that O-Tsuru is an ally of the Kozuki. In fact, I like that thought a lot. It seems really likely to me. We've heard repeatedly that Kinemon has allies in Wano, a various group that lies low in secret. Well, this also seems to be somewhat emphasized by Tengu Yama-Hitetsu just a few chapters ago. If you meet my friends, I think that this is all related. But yeah, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the Kotetsu blade that Luffy now carries. We know that it is cursed, that it is a powerful named sword. And Zoro notices it in this chapter. Obviously, he does not get to use it. For those worried about whether or not he lost the sheath for the sword, no, it was returned. We can see it later in the chapter on the sword itself. But now I am just extremely curious as to when Zoro will finally get to hold the sword and what he will say. I'm not gonna lie with you, that is the single thing from this chapter that I am most excited for. I want to see what Zoro has to say. And this leads us into Basil Hawkins, and I'll probably save a lot of what I want to say about Basil Hawkins for its own video, because Basil Hawkins' Devil Fruit is very, very interesting. And doesn't follow the normal rules that we give to various types of devil fruits. It seems to be a very special fruit. But it appears to be stated in this chapter that his devil fruit is the straw fruit. So he is a straw man. Although there was a lot of speculation, I personally believed that he might have a mythical zone type devil fruit related to straw, but it appears to be simply a paramecia. Which, given all of its abilities, is exceptional. But at this time, guys, I just want to point this out. I've already made speculations about the straw hat itself, that is kept hidden secret in MavisHdz, as well as Luffy's own straw hat. And my speculation was that the straw is in some way tied to fate, which is a very interesting connection to make, considering Basil Hawkins, his concern with fate and probability and what happens in the future, and him having a straw fruit. I'll go ahead and link the theory that I'm talking about in the description if you haven't seen it. I do think that it's pretty good, although I got a lot of comments that disagreed with me. That being said, guys, there's a huge connection between weaving fate and the idea that a lot of straw, like the straw hat itself, is woven. And there seems to be some application of this idea with Basil Hawkins' Devil Fruit. But there's a lot to say here, guys. I want to do it some justice. So then, going to the end of the chapter, we got to meet another new named character, Okiku. I also looked up her name as well, and it does seem related to another Japanese folklore, but in this case, Okiku died and became a ghost which haunted people. Which I'm not sure how that could be related or not, but there are a lot of similarities between what we got in this chapter and that story. And at the end of the chapter, we finally found out where Trafalgar Law, or maybe not Trafalgar Law, but at least his crew has been this entire time. They are on the top of some mountain, or on some mountain. And so we've seen the giant mountain in the background of Wano before. There may be others like it, we're not entirely sure yet. I doubt that they are at the top, but you guys know my speculation is at the top of these mountains, or this mountain, is a grove of cherry trees. Maybe that's where Law is. But I am curious as to what they do next. They obviously know that the Strats have arrived, and it seems as though their goal is to stop them from doing anything too stupid, which likely they've already done and will continue to do. But yeah guys, this is a relatively short first reaction to the chapter, mainly because I took out a huge component of the discussion, what was the majority of the chapter, Basil Hawkins attacking the Straw Hats, which in the fewest words possible was just really cool. But yeah guys, I thought that this chapter was extremely good. A nice combination of action and setup leaves me incredibly excited for what we are going to get in the weeks to come. Unfortunately, there is a break next week. It is not an Oda break, it is a Japanese holiday, which means that we are going to have quite a few breaks in the upcoming weeks, it happens from time to time. But as always, I'm curious as to what you guys thought about the chapter, whether you noticed anything from the chapter that I may have missed. Just share your thoughts. Like the video if you liked the video, dislike the video if you disliked the video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to be notified for my future content. And as always guys, have a wonderful day.